whisperer, and in this channel we talk about books all the time. Welcome back to a new video. Today, as I'm filming, it's the 31st of July. There's some works going on as usual outside my building, so send me prayers because my peace and my patience is running out. But it's the last day of the month, so you know what that means. Yep, you are right. That means reading wrap-up. Yay, I'm so excited. I just love reading wrap-ups. I just love seeing what people are up to, what they read. And also I get a lot of my recommendations from reading wrap-ups. There's just something about the wrap-ups, just, getting to know someone's taste and what they've been up to for the month. So yeah, anyways, today we're talking about all the books I read in July, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus an audiobook, so that makes it 8 books. Let's just get right into it. We're going to do worst to best, worst to best. I feel like I've had quite a good month. There was only one read that was not really up my alley, but everything else I liked very much. So let's just start from the worst read of the month, which was the audiobook I listened to. And I don't know if the fact that I listened to this via audio made my experience worse, or if I wouldn't have ended up liking it anyway. So that's something to think about. But I feel like listening to the audio really gave me the chaotic experience that I wouldn't have had if I read this book. So it's a novella, and it was my first approach to a new to me author, which is Fredrik Backman. So I know this author is very popular because of the Bear Down series. He also wrote Anxious People, that's really popular, and My Friends, his newest release, just came out, and I want to buy it, and I think I'm going to make that my first book by him because the story sounds really interesting to me, and it's a standalone, so that sounds good. But I just wanted a quick read at the end of the month, so I saw that this novella was available on Audible for like nothing. It was really cheap, so I downloaded it, and it was a very good experience. So the novella in question is called The Answer is No. The Answer is No, and it basically talks about this very introvert, almost antisocial guy who lives in just like a building, a normal building, if he's really happy with his life, just his hobbies and his alone time. And one day, the board of this building where he lives in ends up knocking at his door because someone left a frying pan on the floor outside the building, and that is against building rules. So they are trying to figure out who it was. So they want to see his frying pans, because if he doesn't have one, then he would be sus, you know. And despite his efforts to try to stay away from the people of this building, he ends up kind of trying to help the board, and therefore he gets sucked in all of this like building drama and stuff. There's also nosy neighbors who end up, you know, taking up his time and everything. So you kind of follow him, like everything that's going on. It's not really a mystery because you never figure out who left the frying pan, but a bunch of stuff goes on. He ends up, you know, making friends with two of these neighbors in the end, and opening up more, etc. But I loved the depiction of, you know, introvertedness, if you will. As an introvert myself, I found this novella refreshing in a way, but listening to it in audio form felt like I was at my chaotic Italian family reunion. That's really draining for my energy in general, but it's still kind of hilarious. So you end up having fun just listening to everyone's drama, which is kind of ridiculous drama, you know. So yeah, I feel like when I finished the novella, I was like, what the hell did I just listen to? But at the same time, it was kind of hilarious at some points. At some point it was cringe. I just cringed. There was too much Facebook mention and like this whole thing going on with the cult thing, and I was like, what is going on? But I feel like the whole purpose of the novella was the ridiculousness of the characters. So yeah, depends on how you look at it. You can see different ways, I guess, but I ended up giving it stars. 2 stars, because I just would have liked, I don't know what I would have liked. I wouldn't have DNF'd it, but at the same time I felt like a waste of time in a way. So I don't know, like, if you're into chaotic characters and stories, maybe give it a try, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I liked his writing style though, so I'm excited for like a full-length book by him now. So that was The Answer Is No. Next up is a book I haven't rated yet. That is The Gentleman from Peru. By André, who is the author of I love the idea of, la dolce vita, a soft, slow life. So I picked up this book. I feel like all his books are set in Italy, because this one is as well, and I ended up buying another one by him that is also set in Italy. So I feel like, I don't know if all of them are, but yeah. This one is set in the Amalfi Coast in the south of Italy, and it talks about this group of friends who basically decide that whenever one of them ends up making enough money, they will all fly to Italy and rent a boat and, go by the Amalfi Coast by boat. But the boat ends up needing some work, so they end up staying at this luxury hotel on the Amalfi Coast, and there they meet this gentleman from Peru who is like in his 60s, and he magically heals an injury that one of them had. So then they start talking, and he kind of knows a lot of stuff about them. So they are quite intrigued by this person, and they end up talking, and one of them in particular sort of ends up having a close friendship with him. But you figure out different things throughout the book about those two characters. So it's such a short read. It's not even 200 pages. So yeah, you read it in one sitting if you want. I haven't rated it yet, as I said. I usually take a couple of days before rating a book, because I don't like to rate books when I'm coming down from the high of finishing them, you know what I mean? So I usually take a couple of days, so I will rate it in a couple of days, but it's giving 3-star energy. It's like a mid-book, nothing life-changing. I did like some passages and some quotes. I like his writing style. Sometimes though I got a bit lost. I didn't know who was talking anymore. So that kind of brought me out of the story a bit. But there were some beautiful passages, and it's a very philosophical sort of read. So I did enjoy it. But yeah, it's still kind of a mid-book, a mid-read to me. So we'll leave it right there. It could go up the scale, but I don't foresee it happening, to be honest. Next is a book I've been waiting to read since it came out, and I was really intimidated because of the mixed reviews and because it's a favorite author of mine. So that is Great Big Beautiful Life. Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is the pissed about it, but life, you know. Okay, so this book. Okay, so yeah, obviously it's an Emily Henry, so I was really excited about it. She's one of my favorite authors ever, and Funny Story and Happy Place in particular are two of my favorite books ever, especially when it comes to romance, obviously. So I was really excited about another book from her. When she announced that it was gonna be a bit different than her usual books, I was a bit scared because I wanted to like it, and I did. Okay, let's just start with that. No one panic. But yeah, there's a lot to say about this book. First of all, Great Big Beautiful Life follows Alice and Hayden, who are two writers competing for the same job. And the job is a biography about Margaret, who is the last descendant of like one of the richest families of the 20th century in the US. Margaret used to be on all the tabloids. They called her the tabloid princess, and she loved to be in the limelight, but at some point she just disappeared, and no one knows where she lives anymore. No one knows what's happened, and she just disappeared. And Alice finds out where she lives, so she pitches her the idea of writing her biography and telling her story, and giving her the opportunity to tell her story the way she wants. So Alice ends up competing with Aiden, who is renowned biography author who's already won prizes and stuff, to tell her story. They both spend 1 month with Margaret, and at the end of this month Margaret will choose who to give the book deal to. I hope that made sense the way I said all of that. Anyway, and yeah, obviously it's a romance, so Alice and Hayden end up falling in love. There's the classic Emily Henry rivals to lovers in a very meta field, because they are both writers. There's a bit of forced proximity in there as well. It's a grumpy sunshine sort of dynamic. And obviously there's the usual Emily Henry character arc as well. So you end up following on one end everything that happens with Alice and Hayden. On the other hand, you get extracts sort of the book Alice is writing, so you get to read about Margaret's story as well. And there's a bit of a mystery in there, because we're trying to understand why she disappeared, trying to understand, in general, what happened, who is she, what the heck is going on. I really, really loved what she wanted to do with this book. I loved the concept. I loved how the mystery thing unraveled. The first part of Margaret's story I didn't really care about. I was kind of bored because she went back too far, probably, but it had a point, to go back that far. There was a point in the end, so I don't know, it just felt a bit boring reading it, but I see what the author was doing in the end, and I feel like maybe there was a point to this whole making glamorous people can lead a very lonely and boring life actually. Like, we see all this glamour, but they're really lonely on the inside, and their life is boring, and they do crazy shit because of that. So I wonder if making the whole thing a bit boring was like, I wonder if Emily Harry was trying to kind of send a message there, or if I'm reading too much into it. Anyway, the second half of the Margaret side of the book I loved. I ate that up. I was really waiting to see what's happening, because at some point I didn't even have theories anymore. I didn't know what was gonna happen. So yeah, I feel like it could have been done better. Like, the execution was mid, but I loved the story and the concept, right? Regarding the romance side, Aiden and Alice, I really like them as a couple. They're not my favorite Emily Henry couple whatsoever, but I liked them. They made me feel things, okay? Like, because I connected with Alice on different points. I connected on the fact that she likes, wearing colors, and she's a bit more out there than other girls. But at the same time, she's really closed off to certain things. I really could see myself in her in several different things. I liked Hayden's character. I feel like it was missing a bit of that. Emily Henry's depth in general, and wit as well. But he was a different MMC, and for that I'm happy, because sometimes romance MMCs tend to feel all the same. So I'm happy that there was a bit of something different in there. Their love story, I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like it. I did. I find this book to be one of the most romantic books. I felt like the love story was the stuff of, those subtle touches, those lingering glances, and those little things you say that just struck a chord. And for that, I end up falling for you, And it felt almost as if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't even realize that there was a love story going on. And I kind of love that. I feel like it's very realistic. And I don't know, it was so delicate and so romantic. I really loved that. I really loved their love story. And I know a lot of people were saying that this almost doesn't read as a romance, but I mean, it's still the main point of the book. I mean, yes, Margaret's story and all of that, it kind of, but the thing is, it then kind of brings everything together, and it serves for a major plot point in the romance. So I'm like, everything was linked together in the end beautifully. So I did like it. Long story short is, I did like it, but it felt like it needed a bit more editing. That's what I felt like. There were some passages, some sentences and some chapters that I was like, did this book go through a second round of editing, or did they just put it out in the world like it was? Like, I don't know, it felt like a bit incomplete, like an arc, like I was reading an arc, which I don't know, like, that's nicely packaged story, you know. Also, the writing in here, I liked it. It's Emily Henry, but it didn't fully feel like Emily Henry. I don't know if anyone else agrees. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, those are my thoughts in general. Yeah, I gave this book 3.25 stars. 3.25. 3.5 stars. And I'm so happy I finally freaking read it. That was a great summer read, by the way. Next book on this ranking of the books I read in July is Lost and Lassoed, Lost and Lassoed by Lyla Sage, which is the third book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I was highly anticipating this one because you get snippets of these two characters throughout the other books, and you clearly understand that it's gonna be a hate to love story, which is a great trope. Also, it's a single dad nanny trope with an age gap, and we all love that, right? So in this book you follow Daddy and Gus, who are the best friend and the older brother of the female main character from the first book, right? So it's sister's best friend as well. Yep. Basically what happens is that Daddy loses her job, and basically these two hate each other, and throughout the whole book you kind of understand that there's a history there, but you don't really know what the heck happened and why they now hate each other. What ends up happening is that Daddy loses her job, so she now needs a summer job until she decides what to do next. And I love how these books, by the way, all kind of concentrate of the main character fulfilling their dreams. I love that. It's so refreshing. So until she figures out what to do and what she wants to do, she needs a job for the summer, and his kid's mom is training to be a lawyer, so she has to go to another city to do her internship kind of thing, and so she cannot take care of the kid anymore, so their usual schedule doesn't work anymore, so he ends up needing help, because Gus is the one who takes care of the ranch, so he's kind of the manager of the ranch, and he kind of burns out. He cannot manage everything all at once anymore, so his sister sets Daddy up to be his nanny, and they decide that the days where she needs to help with his kid, she will just live at the ranch because it's easier for everyone. Of course, is a dual POV, and it also goes back and forth until you finally get to know what the hell happened that made them hate each other now. And then everything freaking makes sense. It's kind of predictable, so there isn't much of a mystery there, but I loved going back and forth. I love the characters, I love their dynamics. The found family in these books is so great. Obviously it's a cowboy romance. It's a small town cowboy romance set in the Wild West in the US, so the vibes are vibing. There's a lot of ranch talk and scenes as well, and they live in this beautiful ranch, so the vibes are all there. It's one of my favorite things. Like, I dream of this kind of life, you know. So yeah, and I love the found family. The kid, I forget her name. Absolutely love this kid. Like, she made me laugh, she made me cry. I love her, and I don't always love kids in books, and I don't always love the single dad trope, but this one I really enjoyed. The dynamic she had with Daddy was really great, and Daddy was feeling kind of this more creative, spontaneous, girly girl kind of role in her life, so I appreciated that very much. They had a lot of fun creative projects, DIY stuff, so I love that side of it. And okay, this book hit me like I didn't expect it to, because I saw myself in Daddy so much. She is the kind of wild hair, spontaneous girl. She's way more extroverted than I am, but she was going through some stuff that I really identify with. So at some point she was talking about her friendship with Emmy, her best friend, Gus's sister, and talking about how that changed and it's not the same anymore, and she always feels like the one that gets left behind. Kind of all her friendships, she's never the one worth fighting for, and the one that kind of people stick around for. She always feels like in all her friendships she does everything for her friends, and then she doesn't get the same treatment in return, and she kind of gets forgotten and stuff like that. So I really identified in that. Honestly, highly recommend this series. From book 1, I loved all of them. I'm reading the fourth one in August, and I know I'm gonna love it. This was such a good series, good reads. So especially if you like a cowboy romance, I highly recommend. And I gave this book 3.775 stars. Next is a book I read on my Kindle, and this book was in my summer TBR. It was one of those books I really wanted to get to this summer, and I'm so happy I did. It ended up being one of the best reads this month. It's a general fiction book, which unexpected, and it's a new to me author, someone I really wanted to get into, someone who is really popular in the US for the summer, and that is Elin Hilderbrand's Summer of 69. So I read this book because I wanted something set in the 60s or 70s. So that was great. This book follows a family of 4 siblings who has a house in Nantucket, and so usually they spend their summers in Nantucket. And it talks about the summer of 1969, which ends up being completely different from their usual summers, because the brother gets drafted to go to Vietnam. One of the sisters is pregnant, so she doesn't go to Nantucket. She stays in the city with her husband. One of the sisters decides that she wants to find her independence, so she decides to go work in Martha's Vineyard instead. And the last of the siblings, it's another sister who is 13 years old, so she's going through, teenagehood. And she's the only one who goes to Nantucket with her mom and her grandma. And she's really annoyed by that because all her friends stay in the city, and her sisters as well, so she feels like, she would be all alone throughout the summer, and she doesn't really want to go. But once she gets there, she meets someone. She ends up having a huge crush on him. She ends up starting tennis lessons, and stuff happens there as well. There's a lot going on with each sister. So this book, the way it's told, is very particular because it's told from the point of view of all the women, the mom and the 3 sisters. So it goes back and forth, following what's happening to them, what they feel, what they're going through, etc. So it's completely female perspective, and it talks about everything women go through, basically, from teenagehood to becoming a woman, figuring out your values, your first relationships, bad stuff that can happen in those relationships, becoming a mother, and also falling in and out of love, secrets you carry to protect other people, to protect yourself, and ultimately what being a mother to grown-up children also feels like. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of dramatic and chaotic family dynamics. There's it's all of them are very chaotic characters. One of them ends up stealing to ask for attention, basically. One of them enters a relationship with a person who she thinks no one will approve of, and so they kind of keep it a secret, but then it comes out, and so it's very chaotic that way. One of them is keeping a huge secret and kind of becoming an alcoholic because her son got drafted to go to war. One of them is dealing with a lot of stuff with her body and her husband, and stuff she thought was going on but wasn't. There's a lot, but it's beautifully written. It doesn't feel confusing. You read it and you know what's going on, you manage to follow everything. And there's a bit of a mystery that I feel like it's predictable. The point of this book was not the mystery to me. It was really more of a character study, and everything that's happening in this year, which is a very one of the characters worked on the Apollo mission, defining years of teenagehood, etc. It's the summer, so the East Coast Nantucket vibes are there. It's also like a pivotal year for, the sexual revolution and racial issues and stuff. So there is a lot going on, and I loved every second of it. It took me a while to get through it because I was savoring it, and because it's general fiction, I feel like I always take a bit longer to get through a lit book. But yeah, I really loved it, and I'm excited to read more books from her. And this book made me want to have an East Coast summer at least once in my life. So yeah, if you're into social stuff and chaotic female main characters, give it a go. I really liked it. And yeah, the backdrop of Nantucket and the summer vibes was amazing. So yeah, highly recommend. I gave this book four stars. It's honestly a solid 4. Summer of 69. I'm so happy I read this book and I got to that during the summer. Next is a fantasy book which was really popular a while ago. I feel like everyone has read it, and the moment I heard what it was about, I really wanted to read it. Honestly, my expectations were on the floor for this book. Like, I didn't have expectations. I just went into it to have fun, and boy did I. So that is Silver Elite by Dani Francis, which apparently is a pen name. No one knows who she actually is, but it's rumored to be a very known popular romance author, but we don't know who that is. Anyway, that's fun. That's some kind of fun lore about this book. This book, Silver Elite, was really popular because it's a dystopian, and I feel like dystopian is having a resurge. Like we are interested in dystopian now again, like the early 2000s, and everyone was saying it gives the vibes of that era. Spoiler alert, I don't believe so, but yeah, it's the first book in a dystopian romance series, so the romance plot is heavy in this. It's sort of like romantasy but dystopian, and it follows Ren, who lives in this dystopian world where for some reason that honestly I don't think we know what happened, but there's people who have psychic powers. So there's some that have telepathy, some that can read minds, etc. There's different kinds of powers, and even after finishing this book, I don't think we know all of them, which is interesting for the next books. The people in charge of this world are trying to get rid of all the people who have the psychic powers, So basically it's an oppressive kind of government, and Ren has been living her whole life with her uncle, like it's not her blood uncle, but she calls him uncle, who has been hiding her and training her so that she can protect herself against the people at power. And at some point something happens and she gets discovered, and they take her to prison basically, and the person in charge of deciding what will happen to her is Cross Redden, and he decides to put her into this military school to train her to join the Silver Elite, which is like I don't know how to explain it. It's like an elite training program for this special forces kind of military group that tries to dismantle the uprising, the people who are kind of rebelling against the government, right? So she ends up training in this military school. At some point she is kind of hired by the uprising to spy basically for her, etc. So she kind of works the system from the inside. So you're following what happens there. All the while all the people are being really sus, so you end up finishing the book not really knowing who's the bad guy here. You know what I mean? Like, and I absolutely loved this part of the story. This is really what made me go like, okay, like I'm in for the next however many books, because you don't know who the bad guy is, and I feel like that was made on purpose. And I like the message this book gives us, and I interpreted it as like, oh, extremism is bad kind of thing. So because you don't really know who's the bad guy at the end, that sets us up for a good series, I think. So we're trying to understand a lot of things, but all the while she trains, while she, does everything she does, she is slowly but surely falling for her enemy. So this is an enemies to lovers kind of romance, and I loved their dynamic. I didn't expect to like it as much, but the MMC and the love interest is just like, he's so grumpy and broody with everyone but her kind of thing. And also, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but when you realize who he is, and not like the first level who he is, but second level who he is, if you read this book you know what I'm talking about, everything kind of makes sense. And I predicted it, like it's kind of predictable, but not in a bad way. I think the signs are put there for a reason, So yeah, and I loved how he had zero issues with letting her know how much he liked her, how much he wanted her, how hot he was for her. And that was hot. Like, you know what? That was refreshing. Like, give me an MMC who is not afraid of telling her how much he freaking wants her, even if she rejects him. Like, give me a confident king, okay? I don't care. I really liked that. I really liked their dynamic. So yeah, there's still a lot we don't know about this world, about the powers these people have, about the powers our female has. So I'm really excited to see how the story continues, because also at the end we discover a very cryptic thing. So I can't wait for the next book to come out. I also loved the kind of found family aspect, even if that ends up badly, let's say, but I really liked that. And while reading it, honestly gave me more of a fantasy vibe. I didn't feel like it was a dystopian book. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But because the focus was more like this romance and stuff, I accept it. I don't have an issue with it. I love romantasy, so, you know, sign me up. I don't care. It was really fun. And honestly gave me the vibes of different books mashed into one. All books I loved, like some aspects of Forthwing, some aspects of Powerless by Lauren Roberts, some aspects of Divine Rivals, like all books I loved. So ultimately it was a good recipe for me, and I really enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of mixed reviews about this book as well, but you know, sometimes I just take books as they come, and if I enjoyed it, I'm gonna rate it highly, okay? And honestly, I was obsessed with this. I finished it in a couple of days. It's like a 600 pages book, because I needed to know. I needed to know what was going on and how it was gonna end. And when a book does that, I'm fine with it. I will rate it highly, you know. So I gave Silver Lid 4.5 stars. And I'm really happy with that. I'm just a girl. And finally, we have 2 graphic novels. I feel like if you've been watching my last wrap up and my 5-star video and stuff, you know what's coming. But if we go in order, I rated 4.5 as well. The fifth volume of Olympus. Olympus by Rachel Smythe or Smythe. I still don't know how to pronounce that. This is the 5th volume, and this graphic novel is a retelling of Hades and Persephone's story. So it's a Greek mythology retelling. The artwork is amazing. It's very color based, and I love that, as I said. before in other videos, I love how the author uses different colors to convey different emotions, or for plot purposes, like narration device kind of thing. Like if it's a memory, it would be black and white and stuff like that. Each character has their own color, so it also helps visualize the, like, who is related to who kind of thing. And this series is so cute. It's so wholesome. I love that. You should check your trigger warnings for this one as well, because like it goes into some stuff like SA and stuff. So I gave the 5th volume 4.5 stars. And I gave the fourth volume I gave it 5 stars. Yep. This 4th volume is the second 5-star in this series, and I love these characters so much. So much. I'm so attached to them. I honestly do not know what will happen when the series ends. I'm gonna be sad. And I can't wait to see how their story goes on. There's 8 volumes out so far, so I can't wait to get to the other ones. But yeah, that was my one and only 5-star from this month. I love it. And those were all the books I read this month of July. Let me know in the comments if you have had any 5-star reads this month, and if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. If you're preparing your August TBR, I have a summer recommendation video for you. I also have my summer TBR on the channel, and my August TBR picked with a TBR jar prompt kind of thing. So yeah, let me know your favorite book from the month of July. And yeah, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, join our Bookish family if this is your first video here. Welcome, I'm so happy